Wells Fargo, the company that moved the gold. When most people hear the name Wells Fargo, they think of a bank, maybe a branch office, a checking account, or perhaps the famous stagecoach that appears in old Western movies. But Wells Fargo didn't begin as a bank. In fact, its original mission was far more ambitious. It was created to solve one of the biggest problems of the gold rush. How do you move wealth through a place that barely has roads, banks, or reliable communication? The answer helped transform California from a mining frontier into a functioning economy. And in the process, Wells Fargo pioneered a lesson that would echo throughout the history of Silicon Valley. Every boom depends on infrastructure. In 1848, gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill. Within months, California became the destination of one of the largest migration events in American history. Fortunes emerged seemingly overnight. Gold flowed out of rivers and hillsides. Money poured into San Francisco. Merchants arrived. Investors arrived. Entrepreneurs arrived. Opportunity was everywhere. Infrastructure was not. Imagine being a miner in the Sierra Nevada mountains in 1851. You've spent months searching for gold. Against the odds, you've finally struck it rich. Now comes a different challenge. How do you get that gold safely to San Francisco, or New York, or your family thousands of miles away? How do you send money across a continent? How do merchants receive payments? How do businesses operate when financial institutions barely exist? The gold rush created wealth. But wealth alone doesn't create an economy. For that, you need trust. You need transportation. You need systems. Enter Wells Fargo. In 1852, two entrepreneurs saw the opportunity. Their names were Henry Wells and William Fargo. They had already built experience in the growing world of express delivery and financial services. And they understood something many people overlooked. The real challenge wasn't finding gold. The real challenge was moving it. Most gold rush stories focus on miners. Wells and Fargo focused on logistics. They recognized that California's explosive growth had created enormous demand for secure transportation. Not just for gold, for money, mail, documents, packages, and financial transactions. In modern terms, they weren't chasing the gold. They were building the network. The company they founded became known as Wells Fargo. And from the beginning, it operated differently than most people imagine. It wasn't merely a bank. It wasn't merely a delivery company. It was both, and more. Wells Fargo transported gold dust and bullion. It safeguarded valuables. It sold financial drafts. It moved correspondence. It connected remote mining camps to major commercial centers. In many towns throughout the American West, Wells Fargo became something resembling an economic operating system, a trusted intermediary in a place where trust was often difficult to find. Building trust. This may sound ordinary today, but in Gold Rush, California, trust was one of the scarcest resources. The region was growing faster than its institutions. Communities appeared almost overnight. Laws were still evolving. Transportation routes were unreliable. Robbery was a constant risk. And communication with the East Coast could take weeks or months. In that environment, reputation became everything. People needed confidence that their gold would arrive. Their money would be protected. Their correspondence would be delivered. Wells Fargo built its business on providing that confidence. The company's famous stagecoaches eventually became symbols of the American West. But the stagecoach was only the visible part of a much larger system. Behind every shipment was a network of routes, agents, security procedures, financial records, and trust relationships. The stagecoach was the interface. The infrastructure was the product. The hidden story. What makes Wells Fargo interesting isn't simply that it became successful. It's that it solved a problem created by success. The gold rush generated extraordinary wealth. But wealth creates complexity. The more gold flowed through California, the more important financial and transportation infrastructure became. Without those systems, growth eventually stalls. Opportunities remain isolated. Commerce slows. Markets fragment. Wells Fargo helped prevent that outcome. It transformed scattered pockets of wealth into a connected economic network. And in doing so, it helped California evolve from a mining frontier into a commercial economy. More than a century later, Silicon Valley would face a surprisingly similar challenge. The raw material wasn't gold. It was innovation. Engineers developed new technologies. Researchers generated breakthroughs. Entrepreneurs launched startups. But just as miners needed systems to move wealth, innovators needed systems to scale ideas. Venture capital firms emerged to provide funding. Specialized law firms structured companies. Technology banks supported growth. Universities developed talent. Networks connected founders, investors, and engineers. Different century, different industry, same pattern. Every economic revolution requires infrastructure. The breakthrough attracts attention. The supporting systems determine whether it survives. When people tell the story of California, they often focus on discovery. The discovery of gold. The invention of the semiconductor. The creation of the personal computer. The rise of artificial intelligence. But discoveries alone are never enough. Progress requires systems capable of transforming opportunity into scale. That is the hidden story of Wells Fargo. Not banking, not stagecoaches. Infrastructure. The invisible networks that allow growth to happen. And once again, we encounter a recurring Bay Area pattern. Innovation creates opportunity. Infrastructure converts opportunity into an ecosystem. Which brings us back to the question at the heart of Bay origins. Why did it happen here? Part of the answer may be that California repeatedly produced institutions willing to build the systems behind the revolution. Not just the breakthrough, but the infrastructure that allowed the breakthrough to spread. The innovator's ledger lesson 1. The biggest opportunity may be adjacent to the boom. The miners chased gold. Wells Fargo built the system that supported them. Many entrepreneurs focus on the obvious opportunity. The larger opportunity often lies in enabling others to succeed. Ask yourself, what ecosystem is growing around today's innovation wave? Lesson 2. Trust is a competitive advantage. Technology changes. Human behavior changes far more slowly. People trusted Wells Fargo because it reliably protected what mattered to them. The same principle applies today. Trust remains one of the most valuable assets any organization can build. Lesson 3. Infrastructure wins long games. Breakthroughs attract headlines. Infrastructure compounds quietly over decades. Companies that build foundational systems often outlast companies built around a single moment of innovation. The question isn't, what trend is happening? The question is, what systems will that trend require? Founders question. During the gold rush, Wells Fargo didn't mine gold. It built the infrastructure that allowed others to profit from it. In today's AI boom, are you chasing the gold or building the systems everyone else will depend on? The gold rush transformed California, but wealth alone was not enough. The future belonged to those who could move it, protect it, and scale it. Wells Fargo helped build that foundation. And more than 170 years later, the same lesson continues to echo through every innovation revolution that follows. This is Bay Origins, birthplace of the future.